I'm Captain Ava Blake. I'm 34, a career Army officer, and today was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. I was standing just behind the chapel doors, bouquet in one hand, my dress blues sharp and spotless, sunlight from the stained glass casting soft color over the marble floor. The organist started to play. That's when my phone buzzed. One last vibration before I silenced it. I glanced down without thinking. The message on the screen felt like it had been waiting its whole life to strike. "You're a disgrace to this family. My father." 5 words that landed like a brick to the chest. I reread them. They didn't change. Nothing did. It wasn't the kind of heartbreak that makes you sob. It was colder than that. Like the moment just before a crash, when your body goes stiff and your mind can't quite catch up. I'd always known he might not show up. He hadn't RSVP'd. He hadn't called. But still, deep down, I'd hoped. I stood frozen in that quiet space full of ivory ribbons and hydrangeas, my bouquet shaking just slightly in my grip. I had faced combat zones and coordinated rescues under enemy fire. But this 5-second message cut deeper than anything I was trained for. I told myself not to react. Not here. Not now. Mark noticed right away. Of course he did. He was adjusting his cufflinks by the old mirror when he caught the look on my face. One glance, and he knew something was wrong. He stepped toward me, calm as always, like he could anchor the entire room if I needed him to. I didn't say a word. I just turned the phone toward him, hand trembling. He read the message, jaw tightening for a brief second. Then his eyes softened. He handed the phone back, leaned in close, and whispered something I didn't expect. Something that would end up changing the course of everything that followed. My dad used to say that respect is earned, not given. But somehow, when it came to me, he decided I hadn't earned it yet. Not when I graduated top of my ROTC class. Not when I was deployed. Not even after my first Bronze Star. He was a military man too, but not the kind who'd ever seen a battlefield. He was a military attorney, 3rd generation, more courtroom than combat zone. Everything with him was about legacy, image, and control. When I told him I was joining the army, he didn't yell. He just looked at me like I'd said something vulgar. "This is what people do when they don't have a plan," he muttered. I had a plan. I just didn't want the one he wrote for me. He believed women in uniform were out of place. "It's a costume," he once said, shaking his head at my dress blues. "Not every fight deserves a parade." That one stuck with me. He didn't see service. He saw rebellion. And once he made up his mind, that was it. Every milestone became a silent test he never graded. I sent him promotion announcements, letters, and even articles that featured my team's work overseas. He never replied. Not once. It was like I was mailing proof of my worth into a void. The last time we spoke in person before the wedding, he said, "Just don't expect me to smile while you play soldier in front of a crowd." I think he thought that line would break me. It didn't. It just hardened something. So when it came time to choose what I'd wear walking down that aisle, I didn't hesitate. No white gown, no veil. I wore the uniform I'd bled for, trained in, earned. I wore it because it told the truth about who I was. And because Mark asked me to. He wasn't military, but he understood honor better than anyone I'd met in uniform. "You fought too hard to hide who you are," he'd said. "So don't." That stayed with me. It wasn't about making a statement. It was about not shrinking myself for someone else's comfort, even if that someone was my father, especially if it was him. My rank didn't make me worthy. My integrity did. Still, some part of me hoped. I knew he hadn't RSVP'd. He hadn't called. But I told myself maybe, just maybe, he'd come anyway. Maybe when he saw me standing there in that chapel, in full dress blues, marrying a man who saw me clearly and loved every piece of me, he'd realize I wasn't a disgrace. I was his daughter, and I was enough. The music at the reception had just shifted to our first dance when my maid of honor rushed over, eyes wide. "Ava, your phone's blowing up." I took it from her. and felt a chill settle deep in my chest. 43 missed calls, all from the same number. My father. For a second, I couldn't move. I just stared at the screen, the sound of laughter and soft jazz fading around me. Mark stepped beside me, glanced down, and gave me that quiet, knowing smile I had fallen in love with. 43, I whispered. 2 hours, he replied. I blinked at him, confused. Then he pulled me gently to the side and said, I want to show you something. We stepped into the hallway outside the reception room. Just the two of us, and the soft hum of the evening. Mark took out his phone, pulled up a web page, and handed it to me. You might want to read this, he said. My eyes caught the headline first. Captain Ava Blake. Quiet valor in the shadows of war. Below it was a photo I hadn't seen in years. I am in uniform, standing with my team outside a rescue chopper in northern Syria. It was a feature story, a full spread in the National Chronicle. It detailed an operation I had led 2 years earlier, where my unit extracted 12 civilians from a collapsing building under sniper fire. I had never talked about it publicly. The recognition had always been internal. Quiet awards, unofficial nods, nothing splashy. How did they get this? I asked, my voice small. I called Ian, Mark said. College roommate. He's an editor now. I knew they had a piece in the works, but after I saw your dad's message, I asked them to run it early. I stared at him, heart thudding. Why? He looked at me, dead serious. Because you deserve to be seen. Even if your father can't do it, the world should know who you are. I didn't know what to say. The article was raw, honest, and respectful. It highlighted not just my leadership, but my decisions under fire. It told the story my father never wanted to hear. And suddenly, it wasn't just my story anymore. It was public. It was out there. I scrolled through the article, feeling something shift inside me. This wasn't about revenge. This was about truth, about visibility, about standing tall in the light. After years of being dismissed in the dark, Mark reached for my hand. You don't owe anyone your silence, Ava. Least of all him. I nodded, eyes stinging. You leaked my military record on our wedding day? He smirked. I told the truth. I just made sure the right people heard it. By the time we returned to the ballroom, my phone had blown up again. This time, not just from Dad. Media outlets were resharing the story. Veterans I hadn't seen in years were tagging me. A retired general even commented, one of the finest officers I ever served with. I stood near the bar for a moment, phone in hand, just taking it all in. This wasn't how I imagined today would feel. But it felt real. It felt earned. I wasn't just a bride. I was a soldier. I was a leader. And finally, the world saw me that way. That night, I realized something. I might not have had my father's presence, but I had something better. I had validation. From strangers, from peers, from the people who mattered. I wasn't invisible anymore. Something in the air had changed. I could feel it. He called again the next morning, just as I was buttoning up my jacket for brunch. The same number that had gone unanswered for years now stared at me, pulsing with a strange urgency. I didn't think. I just picked up. Ava, he said, and his voice caught. I had no idea. I paused, then answered quietly, No, you never wanted to. Silence stretched between us, but this time, it didn't feel cold. It felt like something breaking open. He cleared his throat. Can we talk? In person. I'd rather not leave it like this. I told him there was a cafe down the block from the venue, quiet and unassuming. Be there in 45, I said, then hung up before he could reply. Mark offered to come with me, but I shook my head. I need to do this alone. He nodded, didn't press. The walk to the cafe was short, but every step felt weighted. He was already seated when I arrived. Same crisp suit, same straight posture, But his eyes, they didn't carry that courtroom steel. They looked tired. Human. I sat across from him and folded my hands. Before he could speak, I said, "What you said yesterday, and everything you've said over the years, it hurt. Not because I needed your permission, but because I wanted your respect." He lowered his eyes, then whispered, "I know." I kept going. "You didn't just miss a wedding. You missed a lifetime. Promotions, deployments, and letters I sent, photos I mailed, all ignored." He looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. I was glad. I wasn't finished. "You built a career in the law, where evidence matters. But with me, you passed judgment without ever seeing the facts." He nodded slowly. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought the military would break you." "It didn't," I said. "It made me." His hands trembled slightly as he held his coffee. "I see that now." He didn't ask for forgiveness. And strangely, I was grateful, because I wasn't ready to offer it. "I'm not here to reconcile," I said, keeping my tone level. "But I'm tired of carrying your silence. I've got too much weight of my own." He swallowed hard. "Can I come to the brunch? Just sit in the back?" I hesitated, then nodded once. "You can come, but it's not for you. It's for me, because I'm done shrinking to make you comfortable." He didn't smile. He just whispered, "Thank you." And in that small moment, something shifted. Not healed, not fixed, but cracked open enough to breathe. In the weeks after the wedding, something unexpected settled inside me. It wasn't peace exactly, but it was close, like a knot that had finally loosened. I kept waiting to feel triumph or relief, but what I actually felt was quiet. I wasn't holding my breath anymore, waiting for my father to say something, do something, be something he'd never been. The brunch came and went without drama. He sat in the back, alone, watching but not speaking. I didn't seek him out, and he didn't try to insert himself. That boundary felt sacred. It was mine. Afterwards, I packed up the wedding cards, put away my uniform, and took a long walk by myself. No music, no destination, just space. I realized then I wasn't looking for his apology anymore. I had stopped needing it. For years, I thought that one moment of regret from him would fix everything. That if he just said he was proud, I'd finally feel complete. But when he finally said, "I was wrong," it didn't hit me the way I thought it would. It didn't heal the past. It just confirmed something I already knew. I didn't need to win him over. I needed to stop measuring my worth through his silence. Mark noticed the shift in me. One night on our back porch, he asked, "You okay?" I nodded. "I think so." He didn't push. He just passed me a glass of bourbon and sat beside me while the sun disappeared behind the trees. That kind of support isn't loud. It's not about speeches or rescue. It's about space, letting someone breathe without expectation. And that's what I'd finally given myself. I stopped replaying old conversations, stopped imagining perfect comebacks or wishing the past had gone differently. It hadn't. And I had still become someone I respected. Someone who didn't need a gold star from a man who couldn't see her light. Letting go wasn't some grand decision. It was 100 tiny ones. Every time I chose silence over rage. Every time I chose presence over resentment. Some days I still feel the old ache, but it no longer owns me. I can hear his name without flinching. I can tell my story without waiting for him to rewrite his. I didn't need his apology. I just needed to stop building my worth around the hope that one day he'd see me, because I already saw myself, and that was enough. 1 year later, I stood in the East Room of the White House, surrounded by dignitaries, service members, and press. My uniform was sharp, my medals in place, but the weight I once carried in my chest was gone. When they called my name, I didn't think of judgment or silence. I thought of every step that brought me here. The president smiled as he placed the medal around my neck. I nodded, steady and grateful, but not overwhelmed. I didn't feel small or scared. I felt ready. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him, my father, sitting in the very last row, alone. No cameras followed him. He didn't raise his hand or wave. He just watched. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything sharp in my chest. No heat, no tension, just calm. He was there. That was all. I didn't do this for him. This medal wasn't about proving anything. It was a recognition, yes, but more than that, it was confirmation that I hadn't needed approval to walk in my truth. I had done it anyway. After the ceremony, I walked past him on the way to the reception hall. He didn't call out. I didn't stop. Our eyes met for only a second. There was no anger in mine, no sadness, just quiet understanding. He had seen me, finally, but I had seen myself long before he ever showed up. That was the difference. That was the peace. And in that moment, I knew the medal was nice, but the freedom from needing his voice in my head, that meant more. To anyone who's ever been called a disgrace, let me tell you something I wish I had heard sooner. You are not the names they gave you. You are not the silence they wrapped around your worth. Maybe you grew up needing someone's approval. Maybe you've tried to earn love that was never going to be freely given. I get it. I've worn that weight. But here's the truth. No one can take from you. You get to decide what your life means. Not your parents. Not your critics. Not the ones who left when you needed them most. You don't have to wait for someone else to validate your story. It's already powerful. It's already enough. And so are you. If any part of this hit home, I want to hear from you. Drop your story in the comments. Tell me what you're letting go of, or what you're stepping into. And if you want to hear more stories like this, real, raw, and honest, go ahead and subscribe. Because this space isn't just about me. It's about all of us. Reclaiming the narrative, one story at a time.